Did you hit the hang up button there?
I think it actually went to a different computer.
Oh, yeah.
I think it went directly because, I borrowed Allie's computer that one time, I think, over Christmas maybe, so it went straight to hers instead of mine. But hey, now we're connected. Here we are. Happy Thursday. Episode 232.
You're right on the money.
Man, I tell you what, this new year I have been nailing the episodes. Give me another week and I'll start screwing it up again. But welcome, Crushing Iron Triathlon Podcast. We thank you for joining us.
Thanks for being here today.
Yeah, today we're going to dive into nothing but numbers and data, the top 10 ways you can get faster on September 10th of 2019, the proven methods that'll make you swim faster on August 12th, and the can't miss run session of 2019.
Well, you caught my attention there, bud.
Yeah, it's a grabber, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah, then we're gonna send you a free PDF where you can read it, and then right before the end, we're gonna yank it from you, and we're gonna charge you $39.99.
The old sales funnel.
The old sales funnel, or you can hit the subscribe button, and we will blast you with emails every day with the can't miss races of the year, the can't miss workouts, the 10 ways to get faster on the bike, which all include obviously purchasing gear from sponsored companies.
Yeah, and keep an eye out for a onslaught of Facebook ads and Instagram ads that just never stop coming.
Yes,
we've teamed up with London Real, and that guy, man.
Oh my gosh, yeah. But we're gonna do that, and then we're going to hop on board, and we're gonna use you for a science experiment, and you can train with us for free for 30 days.
Yeah, there's a lot of benefits coming up.
There are a lot of
benefits coming your way.
Yeah, so stay tuned, and we'll be launching, a couple new sponsors for the year, because it's that time. Tis the season for pro triathletes alike to announce their new sponsors for the year, and lo and behold, they now have the greatest shoe sponsor ever, the greatest bike sponsor ever. They are pumped to rep yada yada yada, when just last year it was a totally different brand.
Totally different brand.
But they were the best. They were the best. Best products, best apparel, best bike, best wheels, best tires, best power meter, best running shoes, best tank, best sunglasses. Now, all new for 2019, while the rest of last year's models are now on eBay. So, 'tis the season.
Yeah, I was thinking about that the other day, because I need some new wheels. I was thinking about calling Flow to see if they wanted to be a sponsor.
Dude, but nobody wants to sponsor us.
Nobody wants to sponsor us, and certainly nobody wants to sponsor me.
Do we really need sponsors, is the question.
No. I was thinking,
I feel like we're appropriately sponsored by our community, and the value we get from that is much more than I think we would get for, 99 cents per episode from some random healthcare that only gives you, a deductible if you're vegan and only have raisins.
Is that how they do it?
I don't have any idea. I was just kind of talking.
Yeah, but seriously though, because I was driving around this morning trying to listen to a little. Yeah, I know. I had to run.
It's 9:10. Where have you gone already? You usually in your bathrobe, haven't even made coffee, and just took Maddie out. What's the deal?
I took Maddie out, and then I had to run a couple errands before the cast. And I was just lamenting on how many commercials you hear on the radio.
Hey, you gotta pay. You gotta pay for time. You gotta pay for airtime. So we figured this is a perfect time to tell you that we will now be charging $3.99 per episode down. No, I'm just kidding. Going forward,
unless you're in the club, and then it's free.
Unless you're in the club or to the team, for free. Quick question, because I haven't asked you in a couple of days. How's your training going?
Oh, that is so weird. That's so weird that you asked me that, because that's the exact question I was thinking about asking you.
Why is it? Listen, we keep getting surprised by this, but we've been pretty close friends for about 6 years. There's not much we don't know about each other, and we're usually fairly on the same same wavelength.
I'm sitting there, I'm getting gas. I'm putting gas on the way back, and I'm like, and I'm gonna check in with Robbie and see how he's doing in the training, because we kind of talk about all these other things, and the reality is we're both still training, and we both have, I think, fairly high aspirations for ourselves. And so, yeah, I was thinking the exact same thing. I was kind of, leaning against the car with the pump thing, and you know how that scene
Oh,
looks?
I know that scene.
That's one of those thinker places, I think.
I know. Yeah.
Like the shower, gas pump.
Gas, then the pool. Yeah, those are the three places where you can think the most.
And the sauna.
No, the sauna. Be careful what you're thinking in the sauna.
I've been thinking about a short story series called Sauna Stories. Because every time I'm in there, man, something weird goes down.
I have no idea, especially if you're at the downtown Wine.
Oh yeah, that's where I'm at, buddy.
There could be a reality awkward series in there. Training for me, even though I asked you first, I'll go ahead. Turned a corner for me. Turned a corner for me. I was battling a couple hip issues and just kind of not really motivation, I think, but I'd say motivation. With Christmas and travel and being gone every weekend, I'm very much a creature of habit, so I've kind of had to work on being a little more flexible than I am in the past. Even though during the season I have to be super flexible because we always have races that we go to or camps and stuff. But I was really struggling, I think, with finding my one, not really my why. But I'm a very visual person, so when I do intervals and stuff and hard work, and as I do it, 99% of the sessions I do alone. And so I don't have a group. If I do train with the group, it's our athletes. We go to camp, we do that kind of stuff. And when I'm in that zone, I'm not thinking about me. I'm thinking about, obviously, the athletes. And so when I train, I train the best when I have an internal image. I have a picture in my mind of what I really want, how I want to succeed, what I want to do, and kind of that. I think I kind of actually alluded to it on maybe last Monday or Thursday's podcast when I was talking about a excerpt I took from the Arnold Schwarzenegger documentary about his doing the whole Mr. Universe thing, and how he could picture himself, in this, and so. All of a sudden, I don't even know when it happened. I should have wrote it down. I'm trying to be better about that kind of stuff, as in journaling my thoughts and stuff about training. But I got this very, very vivid image of me, and I won't talk about it because it's something I kind of like to keep for myself. But because I think sometimes we just share way too much. But I got this very vivid image that just almost immediately lit this fire. And so every session, I haven't missed a session since, and I have been in a really, really good zone. And when I say zone, it's not I think about it every day. It's just I get up, I want to train, I do train, and I'm hitting my intervals hard, I'm working hard, I feel good, and I feel like I'm just in a really, really good spot. And I have this. I'm not either in a rush either, because I think a lot of people, when they jump on the training bandwagon this time of year, they're immediately in a rush. I gotta have it. They got their countdown app, and they got their countdown on their watch, and all of a sudden it's funny because triathletes, they see 120 days, and I'm like, oh shit, I gotta get going tomorrow. I gotta get ready.
Yeah,
I gotta get going. Everybody else is I don't even have tomorrow. What? That's forever away. But for me, and that was something I was kind of told with some of my, I got races coming up, and I was like, I just need to get back to where the best times I've been, the most focused I've been in training is when I've always just been very, do what I got to do today to get in the rhythm and just enjoy it. And not so much I don't analyze results every single day after every single workout, frankly, because there really isn't much to do as much as people want to think there is. But it's just getting into the groove and doing it and moving on to the next thing. And I think I also got kind of even more lit, the fire that I've got now in being not really obsessed with the process, but just really committed to just doing it every day. And I'm enjoying seeing progress. and I can tell once I do it for like 2 weeks, I'm all the way back. In terms of like being in a really, really good groove. Hiking for me was also really helpful. Mountain biking was helpful in me kind of finding my way back and just reminding myself that I do a lot of this because I enjoy it and because I love it. And I like to get out and I like to do things and I like the ability. And so for me, I feel like I have the last 2 weeks and also, I mean, I think I would be remiss by not saying this, is that I've also felt the healthiest I've felt in like 3 to 4 months. And so, that's no coincidence, because feeling sick and feeling tired and being injured, those really, really, really can be frustrating and can really hurt your motivation. Especially if you're motivated to do something and something prevents you from actually doing it. And it just kind of wears on you. And I was just kind of feeling worn down, honestly, about wanting to get back on the saddle and wanting to get out and run, and then just feeling like I had to take another break and another break and another break. And I made some conscious decisions that I feel like I was going about things the wrong way and trying to get back, and made some adjustments to what I was doing in my training and how I was approaching it, and it's made a huge difference, and I am happy with where I'm at currently.
There's a big weight that always kind of feels like it's on your shoulders, especially towards the end of the year with, in triathlon with the 3 sports, and it's hard enough getting one of them going, and then you start feeling the weight of all 3, and a lot of times, like I think we've sort of articulated that it seems like in the fall or in the late time of the year, the run is the easiest one to grab onto. It seems like, because it's there's something about getting back on a trainer and in a groove, or finding the pool groove and that sort of thing. So I guess how you find that is a great question, and it sounds like you were sort of working your way into shape a little bit. And if you're not in shape, it makes those things even worse, right? So like you're saying about hiking and mountain biking and things like that, and that has to help. Because when you go out and start doing the other stuff and you kind of feel like, okay, I can do this, that alone is the progress sometimes.
Well, and I think you just need, like, for me, I wasn't results focused, but I was, it was a kind of just a negative thought and a kind of a negative atmosphere, I think, with how I was approaching some of the sessions, thinking, and I think sometimes I was even assuming that I was going to still be in pain, or it was still going to hurt, and I was kind of expecting frustration, which I think just kind of drags you into a negative thought pattern anyway. But what I found was that I no longer cared about what anything said, no matter what. I mean, and it's funny because like you do things, and you're like, I think I probably lost a little bit, and then you crack off run, and you're like, meh, I haven't lost as much as I thought I did. And I think it really takes like one of those to kind of not maybe spark, be like an internal flame or a spark for you, but just kind of like a reminder that not all is lost. And you're still so far out from when you actually wanted to compete at your best. Like, I had been running a lot of runs on my treadmill because I was trying to take things easier and be able to kind of be in a controlled environment. And so I ran last week like 3 days on the treadmill, then the next 2 days were outside. And I've been covering up my watch the entire time on every run that I do. And I went out and ran on, I think, Saturday morning, and it was one of my longer runs I've done in a while. And I thought for sure I was at a certain pace that was, fairly easy. And then when I got done, looked at it, and it was almost like a mile faster. And it was just kind of like, hey, I haven't lost all of these things. I just got to get back to work, and I just got to show up, and things will start to fall in place. And even just this morning, I hopped on the trainer and got in a ride, and it was just, you can see little flashes of things are coming back around. And just as fast as you can kind of detrain and feel like totally wiped out and feel like you've lost all things, if you just show up every day and you just take it one day at a time and you just try to nail today, all you really need to do is nail 7 to 10 days of that in a row, and you just keep wanting to come back for more. Like, I think your appetite is always going to be, you're always, we've talked about this, you're always creating a habit. It's either a habit of, because if you eat crappy one day, you're more than likely to want to eat crappy again the next.
Yeah.
But if you eat healthy one day, you're more than likely to want to eat healthy again the next. Same with not working out one day, you're going to be less likely to want to work out the next day. If you work out one day, you're going to be more likely to probably want to work out the next day. And so you're always, whether people like to admit it or not, you're always establishing a pattern or creating a habit, whether it's a good one or a bad one. And it's sometimes not even breaking habits to create new ones. It's just creating one that's going to overpower the other one. And for me, it was just about really getting back into creating. It started with just kind of reframing for me other aspects of my life and what I feel like was important. And I think that also freed up me to have more kind of mental and emotional room to work internally to find out what I really wanted by taking extra time in the morning to read and putting my phone away. Like that honestly, I think that's made one of the biggest differences overall in anything I've done that I can remember. And I think it's kind of sad to say, but that's how much power I think we give to like our smart devices and social media. But every night, even we were in the hotel room in Chattanooga, we put our phones away, and locked and went out. And even last night, I think I remember the alley. I was like, I thought this would be a lot harder than it really is. To put, I think last night I even did it like 7:20, and just put it up in the bathroom and got in bed, and we did our, stuff with Hayden and read books and watched a little bit of Dr. Buckeye Bottoms on Nat Geo and went to sleep.
Buckeye Bottoms.
Yeah, it's such a great. Listen, Hayden he doesn't like to watch cartoons. He loves to watch vet shows. Which is kind of cool because he likes to watch Dr. Buckeye Bottoms and Dr. Oakley, the Yukon vet, and occasionally he likes to watch Dr. Pole, even though he's like my least favorite. But where he is in like the zone when they're doing like all these like intense like surgeries on animals, and so he might be a vet when he grows up. I think we kind of got to be careful because he's super observant and he just gets like really into it. He loves watching the animals and stuff like that. But this morning I'll get back to what I was talking about in a minute, but this morning I was getting him ready for school, and I was like, he was talking about Dr. Buckeye Bottoms and what he saw, and horses getting helped, and the cow had something done with his eye, and he was trying to be, I say, hey, what did we see last night? He goes, oh, well, we saw the horse's penis. That's like, I was like, maybe this is a conversation that we needed to have about, not talking about this in school. That might be kind of weird, but at least he's talking about it as a regular name. Anyway, but I think it's really helped me separate different aspects of my life from everything kind of being like just mixed together all the time. And doing that has coincided with me starting to do much better in my training. And so I have to think that separation and not being distracted and putting my own self first in some areas and what's important to me, and just not being distracted and not, like I said, I think on our January 1st cast, was not living in the gray zone. We talk about not training in the gray zone. I talked about I don't want to live in the gray zone. I either want to be doing one thing and not doing anything else. Has really, really helped me focus and stay dialed into what I feel like is important each day.
Yeah. It's funny, last night I was watching a little clip on, there was two guys that used to be, like one of them I think was close to a founder, another guy was a president of Facebook, and they have since left the company. Mm-hmm. And they were talking about how scared they are because they kind of knew what they were doing, but now they're realizing the potential real impact of what they've created. And they knew, and they were talking about social media in general and how it's basically created on human weakness, and how they have designed their platforms to create an endless feedback loop. Mm-hmm. And how it generally changes your body chemistry, and how it creates you always hear about it, but the shot of dopamine every time you post something, and how it creates a notice that says, hey, somebody's commented on what you posted, and then somebody does this, and so it's like a constant thing. And how it genuinely can, I mean, I told you about when I lost my phone and I had 3 days without my phone, and how on day 3 I was literally out, like, trimming my hedges and, planting grass. I was doing all these weird things that I just normally wouldn't do, and I kind of realized it was because I had more energy. And I think there's something real about that, man, especially if you're wired up and you kind of keep wiring yourself up. And I have that problem too, especially late at night, because it creates sort of that, okay, I wonder what they said, or wonder what's going on, or what, all these things that, none of it really matters, but it's an energy drain that constantly goes. It's like we hear people more and more talking about like adrenals, like what's that? What do they call that? Kind of overstimulated adrenals or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And I think in a lot of ways, because they were especially talking about it, like, because they don't really have the information now how long term it affects kids and stuff like that when they're so malleable in their brains and their youth and stuff like that. And I don't know. I mean, I think life always kind of goes on, and we talk about, everybody's like, oh, back in my day, we didn't have blah, blah, blah. But I still think that there's something different about this, compared to when we grew up or whatever. I mean, we didn't have the internet. We didn't have a phone in our hand. I mean, it was constant. That is a major shift in society.
Mm-hmm.
And I really think it is different than when I grew up. You know what I mean? Like, we didn't have computers. I mean, that is such a major shift that we get sucked into that. And I guess the overall point here is that I really do think it plays a major factor in your energy levels.
Well, I think it's, again, like I see, and we talked about this on Monday's podcast, in terms of like training indoors has its benefits, but it also has its drawbacks. And I would be very interested to hear if anyone can say, without question, that they've gone out on a 3-hour ride with their friends outdoors and came back and felt less rejuvenated than they would have if they had spent their time inside alone 3 hours staring at a computer screen. Mm. I just think that there's a real disconnect by using that. But I also think, again, that there's a time and a place, and so I definitely see what you're saying. But I feel like, well, let me put it this way: I think there's a difference in doing things that are going to make you feel connected to yourself, or make you feel truly connected with others. Because I think a lot of times in training, and this is a lot of reasons why a lot of athletes choose to train with a group. And it was just starting an email about that actually before we hopped on our call with a newer athlete, and I was like, listen, I said, I have a lot of athletes that choose to run with groups, or not run, but choose to swim with like a master's team, but they'll do their own workout, or they go to an indoor trainer session with another group, but they do the workout that I prescribe. There's huge power in being around people and doing things in a group. I think you just get energy from it. But it's also very, very, very difficult this day and age with how busy people are and how to prioritize training. And so I think that it's always really, I think one of the best ideas that we've ever had with this community and with our team alone is creating a place. And while we use Facebook as the platform for people to connect, I think the important thing to definitely mention, because I'm not anti-Facebook by any stretch of the imagination. I'd be hypocritical if I said I was. I think it's just like anything else. It's how you use it. And I think that allowing people to connect truly with being vulnerable is the greatest way you can do to connect. Because most people don't use Facebook to be vulnerable. There's something that we do in our closed active athlete group, and there's something that you've started doing, I think, in the club group, is people kind of share their story, mm-hmm. and they can talk about their why, and people lay it out there. I mean, the people will tell you things that you wouldn't tell, somebody probably known for a while. They're very, very open, but but being vulnerable is the greatest way to connect with people, because I think people also really like to understand, like, listen, everybody's life has a ton of crap going on. Whether you know it or not, everybody has like some kind of a struggle. And so I think that if you can connect in a way that makes you feel truly connected by feeling more comfortable because you are okay and recognize that you're not perfect either, and these people aren't trying to be perfect, so it allows you to be vulnerable. It allows you, I think, to just live in a different way that is acceptable because you feel comfort. And when you take that and also in terms and you flip it and you go back into training, when you're removing like distractions and expectations, and every workout is based on success and failure or all these things, like, you just tend to fall into this pattern. And this is something else I wanted to talk about today, but it was like, there are specific, like, the highest level achievers that I work with, every single one of them, without question, has the same level of, or the same list of attributes. And I'm not talking about just the ones that have been on the podium or qualified for world championships or gone to Boston or whatever. I'm talking about the ones that I see that where they are currently are always succeeding. They're always upping the game. They're always improving and succeeding, no matter what it is. And they all have the same process-oriented outlook. And they never get too up, and they never get too down. And they just seem very comfortable in their skin. And I think that because they have this vision of what they want to do and how they want to get there, and then they just buy in, and they're done. And I think when you have that personality, or that I think it's kind of like an inner peace, honestly, in how you're going about your day to day. It keeps things very, very simple. And the more simple your life is and the more simple you approach things, obviously the more simple things are, the more oftentimes it limits the outer chaos. When you just, like, sometimes I honestly think it's okay, and it's probably to your benefit, to have tunnel vision. Because in a world where you can't even like open up your phone or your laptop or like drive down the street with the radio on and not have something coming through your brain that's either trying to tempt you to do this or think about this or your opinion on this or doubt this or question this, like, usually nothing that you see has anything to do with affirmation. It's telling you something new, doing something different, why what you're doing is wrong, that everybody else is right, and that's all you consume. Questions, chaos, contradiction. It's all there. Like, very few things that you read or consume or listen or scroll through has anything to do with your own personal affirmation, because there's only one you. And you're the only person that has those thoughts in that life, in those goals, in that day-to-day thinking. But what we do is, from the moment we wake up, from the moment we close our eyes, we let everyone else interfere with it. And there are very few people who are good at either shutting it out and staying objective and staying the course. And other people constantly get, they're driven by others' opinions, or honestly, it's not that people are driven by other people's opinions. It's that people are driven away from their own goals by other people's opinions or thoughts. And so I think when it comes to training and focusing, it's have these just one or two or three things that only matter. And everything else, it's not so much who cares. It's just that you don't have any other amount of care to give. And so it's staying focused and staying bought in, even if occasionally you doubt yourself. The amount of satisfaction and peace you're going to have every single day by just doing what's in front of you and doing your best and not questioning whether it's right or it's wrong or you're bad or you're successful. There's something to it. And again, like when I look back and if I had to like pick out like the top 10 to 15 athletes that I work with in terms of consistency and you know what their life is? Boring.
Yeah.
I'm saying that with like the
I know, I
utmost
know.
admiration and love.
Well, yeah, I know.
Their life is straight up boring compared to what everybody else would see as boring. Dude,
Yeah.
my life, boring.
Yeah, you say boring.
You know
I
what?
can also say content, maybe.
Content, yeah. I mean, but I'm talking
I know what
like
you're saying.
I'm like boring in terms of like what other people might look at, but it's never. They have a very good grasp on life, and even when like something like very small seeps in, that could be drama or an illness or a family. It's like a blip on the radar. They handle it with such like what should be, what should be a 2-day thing for them is either just a 2-day or maybe a 1-day. It doesn't turn into a 2-week. They're just, on the outside looking in, they're just, people say, oh, they're just kind of boring. You don't ever do anything fun. You know what's fun? Not having drama, not having chaos, being set and knowing you want something and being committed and being motivated and not feeling like you have to change everything every other day. That's fun.
Mm-hmm.
That is fun.
Yeah. Well, I fall so much in that. What you're talking about kind of is this concept of people pleaser type personality that I think a lot of us have. I mean, I've struggled with it my whole life, and I think a ton of people do, and in some ways I think that triathlon maybe attracts people that have certain things to get through in their lives, and that kind of is one of them, because they want to establish quote unquote a new identity maybe, or reframe themselves, or do something that makes them understand really who they are. And it's so easy to get caught in that trap of look at me now, and getting into that realm of, yeah, all right, well, I have a plan in my mind, but it's so much easier sometimes to say, oh yeah, all right, I'll go do that. I like that too. And you really don't like it, but you're just trying to do something, to fit in, kind of thing. And I get that, to the core. And I think that what you're saying about people who just understand who they are, that's one of the hardest things to do in life, is to really concretely know who you are and what you're all about. Because there are so many distractions, and that people just prey on you constantly through, like you're saying, ads or Facebook posts. And back to the point about, yeah, Facebook is a tool, and it's one of those things where it is a beautiful tool if you use it in a way that's productive, but you get in those endless feedback loops or whatever, and then you start not really sticking to the core of who you are, or whatever it may be. And instead of trying to appease people that are right in front of you in life, how it used to be, now we're trying to please thousands of people that we don't even know half the time. And that sort of cycle can really be, I guess, deadly for training, because, man, I love hearing what you're saying, because I know what you're talking about. I know those type of athletes that just sort of do their thing, and there's not, everything's not the end of the world, and everything's not the greatest thing ever. It just sort of is what it is, kind of thing. And that's why I leaned on that word contentment, because certain people in my life, I've seen that from them. It's kind of like, why? Come on, man, this is going to be awesome. Come on, let's go. And they're like, nah, I'm good. I'm just going to, do what I do. And you kind of said it was boring, and I see what you're saying. But man, boring is really exciting sometimes when you can find that groove, and it's like, I struggle with that big time, because, like, you know me, I'm in and out of different things, and that's one of my vulnerabilities, is that I'm looking for that spark externally a lot, and I hate that about myself. It's I was thinking about this yesterday, actually, because I have been pretty consistent lately, and I had gone through that streak of yoga in late November, December, where I went almost every day, and I've kind of let that go. But I noticed yesterday that I there's no question that it helped my running. the strength. I can just feel it in my legs. My thing right now is just all aerobic capacity. Because I stuck with that for a month, and I was going when I was tired, and I was just kind of fighting through it because I was focused on it, and it was kind of a catalyst for me to get to where I'm at right now with a little more consistency. And the one thing about this training schedule or season for me is that I'm definitely starting ahead of where I usually start. So, but I love that, man, because you got to find out who you are, and you got to stick to that, because that's where the self-approbation is, and that's where the belief system all starts. And that's when you're saying, you kind of get into it for a couple of weeks, and you're like, oh, I remember this, and this is where it's at. And there's always that temptation because we're used to chaos. I mean, so many people grow up and seek chaos and excitement. That's one of the things you grow up like. I've, kind of grew up in that alcoholic world, and one of the things they say that we tend to do as a child of that situation is to seek excitement all the time, because and almost like embrace chaos because it kind of wakes us up or whatever. But there's something beautiful about being in a groove that's sort of, like you said, boring, that really kind of crystallizes and hardens yourself into believing in who you are again. And the more you can do that, just the better things get. And it's the matter of not disrupting that. That's the challenge, right?
Well, I mean, their lives aren't boring, like you said. Their lives are content. Their lives are grounded. Mm-hmm. We talk about not getting too high and not getting too low in training too. Rarely ever are they like, man, I crushed that workout, or man, I sucked today. It's always just kind of even keel. Mm-hmm. I worked hard today, or today was harder than I thought, or I feel good about today. They're very they're very predictable almost in their responses, and they might not. And while they don't share those like week to week like super highs and super lows, that's because they're preparing for this really, really, really big high, and that's just what they're focused on. And that's why, like, and again, like when I go back to like all of these apps that people, I was scrolling through Training Peaks this morning, looking over the athletes' workouts, and I'm sure there's validating evidence on so many of these things, but it's not for me. I just don't feel like. But the HRV app, this person commented, it was like motivation, they said really, really high. They said overall fatigue really, really low. Soreness, they said really, really low. HRV app, super fatigue. What? What? Like, it's just, I think there's just, again, like there's just so, first of all, people functioned wonderfully without all this stuff. It's so hard, and again, I think there's beginning to actually be some kind of evidence out there about the benefits of using apps like that. But get to know yourself first. Get to know yourself first before you start. And some athletes that use HRV or are starting to use the heart rate variability app, I think have a good grasp on their day-to-day and how they feel. Some people are just using it as a dictatorship of when they should go or when they shouldn't go. Learn your body first. Learn your feelings and learn your efforts. Learn those things first instead of. I don't know. I personally am not even close to 100% sold on it. I think there is such a. Everything that's entered into our society now is meant to disconnect you from what you should feel or think internally. It's device driven. Something with no heart, with no brain, with no feelings. It's just a computed, digitalized response or feedback to tell you how you felt today. So I challenge people to to put some of the stuff away sometimes and go by feel, and then you tell yourself before you look at anything. It's okay to look at that. It's okay to look how things went today. But again, you write the story. You do it. You tell yourself how you feel, and you describe. Like I would really, really, really encourage athletes who use some kind of journaling or use some kind of software like Training Peaks or the other like platforms, to next time you comment on a workout or you tell yourself how good it felt or the RPE or whatever it was, don't look at any of your numbers. Comment first, tell me how you felt first, and then look at it. Don't let things make you second guess how you really felt. Like, that's like a common thing that I'll have athletes, I don't know why, but I just went too fast today. Well, you just told me that it was like a 3 on a scale of 1 to 10. Mm. So tell me again how you went too fast. Mm. Oh, well, my Garmin told me I was in zone 4. Mm. Like, just put it away. You know, like just stop letting every other thing that some random person made 16,000 miles away tell you how you feel. Like, so the greatest coaches that are still out there, you know what they still go by? RPE. They don't use TSS metrics and performance management charts and all these kinds of things. They go by what the athletes say on how they feel. Mm-hmm. Olympic Training Center, you know what they use? RPE scale 1 to 20. How do you feel? How is this? How's this going? That's the greatest thing you can tell us. How do you feel? Don't let the data always drive every single decision or non-decision or feeling or thought pattern that you have about every single session, every single day, because that's also a great way to stay so disconnected that you figure out that you finally figure out when that you've lost all meaning behind what you really do. Because the first thing you do after every single workout is sit down and open up your laptop and upload your workout and look at the data and was today good or was today bad?
Yeah,
just stop it. Just enjoy it. And remember that's why people get disconnected. Because they're always disconnected after every workout. They're not connecting, and they're not connecting while they're training. They're not in the moment. I understand there's intervals you have to hit, and there's things, there are guidelines, but sometimes just close your eyes and go and see how you feel or what comes up or what thoughts or what's emotions or how you feel, and let that also be the feedback. There's just so much to be gained from learning yourself and learning your body and learning how things go, because guess what? On race day, you can't use any of it. You can go by power guidelines or HR guidelines, but what if your battery goes out?
Yeah, man.
You got to know you. You got to know you. You can't let everything always tell you what you were doing or what you're not doing. It's like guarantee you, if a person wakes up and they're like, "Oh, dude, fatigue's too high." HRV app says I'm totally fatigued. You know what you're immediately going to think?
Day off.
Yeah, day off, or they're going to run and they're immediately going to think that it was worse than it really was, because they just told themselves that it was going to be hard, instead of the other way around, which is exactly how it should be. I was scrolling through. I think it was something from maybe it was something Steve Magnus shared the other day, and it was something along the lines of telling people that they're predisposed to not being very smart, or to being overweight, or to being this, or to being non-athletic. Telling somebody that has more detriment to that person than the actual truth. Like the actual disease or the actual predisposition to not being athletic, or to being be more susceptible to overweight or some kind of disease.
Man. That's what I think of when I think of people saying it's hereditary.
I'm telling you, and I'll have to go back and I'll see if I can post the link to the article, but that's it. It's telling somebody that it's in my family, it's in my genes. It doesn't have to be. You know what's also in like recognizing it is okay. But like you grew up in an alcoholic family. I grew up in an alcoholic family. Doesn't mean I have to be one. Doesn't
Right.
mean you have to be one. Instead of just acceptance of what I'm always told I'm supposed to be. You didn't go to college. You're probably just gonna have a remedial job, and you're never really gonna amount to anything because that's your destiny. Like it's the stories that we allow society and let these devices even tell us before we even like so many of our daily workouts and training and stuff like this are already decided upon before we even put our shoes on by what you read or how you try to interpret things or sometimes even like so many athletes will open up Facebook or open up this and they'll go out and look, I just couldn't shake this thought, and so I had a terrible run because they started thinking about something that they saw or something that they read or something from a friend. Like so much of our life now is so tethered to every other thing that by the time like it's kind of like your life is now like the emotions and the your mental and emotional thoughts now are kind of like that old school like telephone pass it along game you played in elementary school.
Yeah.
It starts with one, and by the time it gets all the way back to you, you're like, this isn't even like close to what it was supposed to go. But you're entering so many things into it that you don't even know what the hell you got out of it because you don't even know what you put in. I'm telling you, there is something to telling yourself how it's going to be before it actually is. That is not productive.
Yeah, those predisposed belief systems and that quote unquote, it's genetic, that all that philosophy, it doesn't have to be, but it makes it harder. You have to, I think, work on those things to get through them. And I think in the long run, that makes you better. Whether it's, somebody telling you you're not a fast biker or you're just not a good runner, if you start believing that stuff, that I think I always look at that stuff as sort of a benefit in a way, because when you can actually fight through that and change that perception in your mind, that makes you actually stronger. And I think that a lot of people, and I'll go back to it, I think a lot of people get into triathlon with that sort of mindset. They want to change some stuff, and they find out it's not that easy. But once they can break through that hump or break through that ceiling, they understand that it's like they're in it then. That's what those people you're talking about, the athletes that are consistent, I believe that's probably what's happened, is they've fought through it and they've done it the hard way and they've really learned it, and it becomes innate to their belief system, and it's really in their body, in their soul, and that's like real learning compared to like, I know I can do this, and then one day you do, and then 3 days you don't, and then you're like doubting it again. But if if you keep pushing through there, that's when it really settles into your, the way you look at everything and the way you go about it. And that's why the highs and the lows are trouble, because you want to be in the middle.
Yeah, and you just can't program everything. Like, I mentioned this to an athlete yesterday, like, every single day we're reminded on some level how not in control we are. And I think, and while we get so frustrated that we're not in control, we kind of overdo it in trying to control everything else. And I was actually on a phone call with an athlete, I think yesterday or the day before, and I was telling him that, so like there's a huge, so many athletes now use like ERG mode on the trainer. They pre-program the exact watch they're going to hold for a specific interval, and they also program the exact rest, which is totally foolish. Some athletes will listen, some athletes won't, but it's totally foolish to program your rest. Because what usually happens is that, you don't know how your body's going to feel, but most of the time when people program rest, they're programming that they don't want their average watts to get any lower during their rest interval. But newsflash, guess what? You don't get training extra credit for recovering harder. You get extra credit and adaptation and getting stronger by being able to push more watts in the bike. But I told an athlete, I said, I a lot of times for athletes that don't use ERG mode, what I can really tell is sometimes I can tell more from their recovery than I can tell from their actual intervals. In that they are, so I was giving him an example of a workout that I did a couple of days ago. It was 21-minute all-out intervals. And if athletes use like ERG mode, they'll pick, like if I give a range of between 105 to 120% of threshold, athletes will just pick a number between that percentage. I'm like, that's what I'm gonna hit for every single interval. Even though I'll say build throughout, they'll pick one and just do it. And then they'll pick a recovery to be able to do it. But if you build through it and you find yourself getting stronger towards the end, then you can push higher and go so much easier on the recovery. And that's a good thing. That you're like, you should have such a distribution and variance between your top end and your low end. I think when I was doing mine the other day, my first 1 minute interval started at like 287. My last 20-minute interval ended at like 334. So a huge gap, but I built the whole way through. I think on my last interval of 334 for a minute, my recovery time was like 70 watts. Whereas most people would have pre-programmed it to be like 140. But if you had pre-programmed super heavy out of the gate, you're probably never going to get up as high as you did, and you're never going to recover as low as you did.
Mm-hmm.
You're deciding how the workout's going to go before you actually get into it. Mm. And I think that programming, again, like there's value, I think, for certain athletes. But again, when it comes to race day, and it comes to knowing yourself, and it comes to being patient and working through things, being like living your life in ERG mode is how most triathletes live now. They live their life in what they feel like they can program without just listening to their body and how things go and just seeing how the day goes. And if you do that, you're going to be in touch with it. And guess what? You can learn so much more from listening to your body than you can by programming it every single day. Mm-hmm. There's just so much, and you can look back on 2, 3, 4 weeks of training and see how things actually truly went with the ebb and flow of your life, and the ebb and flow of fatigue, and the ebb and flow of stress, and the ebb and flow of fitness, and how things went day to day. And then you can make adjustments. But if you pre-programmed everything, then how do we know if it was too little or too much? Because rarely ever is it going to be exactly right. Rarely ever.
Yeah.
But your definition of exactly right was, I pre-programmed it, I controlled it, it's done.
Well, yeah, you know me, man. I've been resistant to that stuff from day one for some reason. I've never been, and I do. Okay, so I've never used a power meter until recently, in the last 6 months, just even toying around with it. And every once in a while I go on there, and I can already see the temptation of, because I used to do it with the running too, is the temptation on that average watt or that average speed. And I have now, I mean, with the running part of it specifically, I'll run with my watch, and I'm getting very comfortable now looking at and seeing like a kind of a high average speed after my workout. But what I do is I've always gone by feel, and I'm in this place right now where, yesterday, for example, I had 8 repeats, 30-second hill repeats or whatever. And like you said, I just, all I focus on that place is my feel in the beginning. I don't try to go out too hot on those repeats. And by the end of it, I'll just glance at my watch occasionally just to see what's going on. But my whole focus is on breath and like the way I feel and how much further I think I can push it. And I just think about that all the time, because to me, it comes down to, if you start seeing numbers that you don't like, it's going to mess with your head. So I'm always just sort of like working my brain in a way that always just tries to push through something. And it's that feeling, right? It's because that's what it's going to come down to. On the bike, you're out there at mile 80. And if you start like depending on your watts all the time, you might not, you might start caving in, or for lack of a better word. Plus, also, I feel like sometimes that pre-programmed stuff or whatever, that predetermined destination can be a governor in a way. Like if you're trying to work out and you're trying to like improve your speed on certain things, you just got to be able to push through it. And
well, what
hit
I
higher
see it,
numbers. Or
exactly. Yeah, that's the point.
Yeah. And then the recovery things, like, I was almost walking back down the hill,
Yeah. But if you have to go top end to like get more, then do that. It's like you just can't ever. They usually prevent themselves from going hard enough and easy enough.
Mm-hmm.
But another thing that I notice a lot with athletes who are obsessively in ERG mode with their program workouts 24/7 is when they get outside, they struggle mightily with pacing. Mightily with pacing. They rarely ever can be very consistent, at least out of the gate, with holding a steady power at a steady cadence on their own out in the real world where they're not on their trainer and it's fixed. Again, there are some benefits, I think, to ERG mode in some areas for some people sometimes, but I do think it is a drawback to use it all the time 24/7. And again, I'll tell you from personal experience, from what I've seen with a lot of athletes, is when they get outside or when they do rides where they need to go more on bifield or they need to go on a wider range of watts to go through, either two things happen. They pace it terribly and it's just all over the place, or they go off way too hard and they just struggle at the end. But athletes, so it's a learn. It's again knowing yourself and knowing your body and knowing what feels like what without having something else tell it to you is a skill. And I can tell you from running, especially, there are a lot of runners that I work with and cyclists alone that I guarantee you, and I've seen them, can go out and run a route and do a run training session and hop on the bike, and they can tell you within, 10 seconds per minute mile what they're running every single time without fail, because they know what they feel and they know what gets what. And the same thing on the bike. But when you have a disconnect, I think you can struggle in that area. You can struggle knowing you.
Yeah. I mean, I would imagine it's like anything else. If the more you do that, the more you can get comfortable with certain numbers and more relaxed at hitting them. But I know that sometimes if I'm really being driven by a prescribed pace or something like that, and I almost find myself, put downshifting or upshift, you know what I mean? Like it's more of a forced effort to try and find that pace than to actually just find a pace that feels good, and there's something I think one of the biggest misnomers about everything is that going fast doesn't have to feel so hard. That's kind of what I always try to find. It's like if you can really relax and flow at certain things, you're going to go faster. And it doesn't mean, like I always think about it when you're a kid and you think about running and you're out on the playground and the way we used to think about running all the time was just like we always had to dig in and push so damn hard, and just like it was this complete, it was almost like weightlifting instead of flowing. And I think about that on the bike and the run all the time. It's like, how do you just relax and just find that sweet stroke and just go, instead of always trying to adjust your everything in your body to go to a certain speed. Just go to a speed that feels right. And to me, that's how you get better. Is really, I mean, look at like when you see these, at the end of Kona, sometimes it was Carl Marinda or Patrick Lang or whatever, the flow they have. I mean, that's the goal to me, is to be smooth and relaxed and comfortable at a faster pace.
Well, it's just, and it's also not being like, I know, and I've seen so many athletes who marry themselves to a predetermined pace or heart rate or range, but when that doesn't meet the actual reality of the day, it is impossible for them to deviate from plan. Impossible. They just almost like refuse to do it. I'm not feeling good, but you know what? I averaged 21 miles an hour for my last group, but I'm going to average 21 miles an hour today. Headwind or no headwind, crappy day or not crappy day, I'm going to average that, and then I'm going to tell you all about how I nailed the bike when I'm walking on the rest of the race. There's so much value in being able to troubleshoot your own body all the time based on how you feeling that very second. Giving yourself room to push and not push. There's so, especially like when you get to long course racing, when it's also about being smart and being objective and knowing when to hold back and knowing when to go or knowing when you don't have it. Instead of like you have to be able to think. You have to be able to think, and you have to be able to be objective, and you have to be able to look at the whole race. Because athletes will struggle with this too when they're getting their fancy trainers and they're getting their hooking things up and programming it. Is I've had at least once a week, athlete will have to quit a workout because they pre-programmed numbers that were too high for how they were really feeling for the day. So guess how much we learned today? Nothing. We just learned that you programmed poorly. Because there's a very good chance you could have hit the actual workout. Because again, we've talked about this before. The ranges and things like, especially on the bike, like ranges in zone 3 and zone 4, sometimes like, depending on what your threshold is, sometimes those ranges are like 20 to 30 watts deep. So most athletes and dudes are like the kings of this. If I say go between 70 to 80%, you know what they do. 80%. I'm doing this every single interval. I'm gonna hit 80%. I'm gonna nail it. I'm gonna show coach I got all the legs. I'm the powerhouse. I am Chris Froome reincarnated. Fatigue is high. Sleep was crappy. They programmed him 80. Second sets in. Guess what? Third, fourth, fifth. Bye.
70.
See you later. 50, 40. Or, you know what happens a lot of times? Total abort. And I gotta give. Ladies rarely ever do that. They'll coast it in. Dudes, ego crushed.
Yeah, didn't have
demoralized. It's like they get off their trainer and walk to the bathroom, their tail between their legs, like it's the end of the world, and their career is now over. But it happens all the time. So we didn't learn anything from your overshooting and your ego choosing to do the top end because you're trying to impress yourself or impress your coach, or always do like. We just didn't learn anything. We just learned that you missed an opportunity by trying to program it. You missed an opportunity. And opportunities are something that you can't take for granted.
Yeah, it's how do you work your way through? And again, that thing about it just keeps coming back to me. The number one thing I learned at Louisville was that I went out at a pace on that run that just wasn't necessarily agreeing with me. And I was going to ask you this: about a month ago, I was out running and I was coming back, and I probably had 2 miles left. And I saw somebody I knew on the Greenway, so I stopped and talked to him for about 3 minutes. And then after that, the run was absolutely outstanding. I was going to die. So
I was going to die.
And then we talked for like 3 minutes, and I just kind of picked it back up, and I just cruised it on in without...
I mean, 3 minutes is a pretty long rest.
I understand that, but like...
Especially when you're like standing still.
Yeah.
But sometimes it's also harder to get back in your groove.
Sometimes it is. So, I don't know the answer to that, but again, I keep thinking back to Louisville instead of just adjusting my goal in race. I kind of threw in the towel a little bit halfway through that marathon as I was trying to shoot for some sub-9 pace for that marathon, and instead of adjusting to 9:30 and maybe taking a little time to try and recover and see what would happen, I just kind of kept pressing on a little bit. It's sort of that gray zone thing, I was like, hey, so maybe it's not a bad idea, it would have taken a lot of balls for me to just kind of walk like a whole mile or something, but heck, you just never know,
I think sometimes you just need like a snap out of it.
Snap out of it, yeah.
Kind of moment. Because I think
snap out of it moment.
Because we usually just get like, once we see a hole, we just go deeper into it. Like, and you very well may have been just like going down that hole of I'm out of control, I'm out of breath, so I'm going to always be that way instead of trying to like recontrol it. Like Peter Hamilton was on the treadmill. He was like, the first 25 minutes, I was just like, it was my breathing was labored. I was just totally out of it, and it felt super hard. And he was on the treadmill, and he hopped off for just 10 seconds. He said, caught his breath, refocused, and got back on, and it felt totally normal.
Yeah.
And so I think sometimes there's just this one. There's just a.
Well, that's the point, I guess, is that was a trainer ride, and that kind of thing happens to a lot of us during races, but we don't feel like there's that 10 seconds to get out of a race, or the analogy there, because it's a race. Because if that would have been a training run, I would have walked to the bathroom with my tail between my legs. You know what I mean? I could have very easily, but how do we find that 10-second off to give you what you need to get back going?
Mm-hmm.
Snap out of it moment.
Snap out of it.
Yeah, there's plenty of opportunities for snap out of it moments, and even though that clock is running.
Mm-hmm.
Because in the long run, that 10 seconds is going to really pay off.
Yeah.
But we can't see that, in the moment.
I mean, let's be honest. You're not going to take your snap out of it moment, but you're going to stop like 32 minutes in, pause, and spend like 7.5 minutes staging like the most perfect selfie to go on the gram. So you do have time to snap out of it because you got time to snap a picture.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, we always do. The gram. Speaking of the gram, I got to start crushing that again.
Do you?
No, I don't know. I was actually thinking about how, we need a gram crusher.
Well, it's not going to be me.
Anybody out there want to crush our gram?
Yeah. All interviews and resumes submitted to crushingiron@gmail.com.
Yeah. Hit me up. So you done today with your workouts?
Nah, I'm going to run again later and hit the pool.
Man, woo. And you already did something this morning? You are.
Yeah, I rode this morning. Well, I got a little extra time today. I'm picking up Hayden a little bit later than usual, so I think I'm going to have time.
Are you doing a simulated Oli?
Yeah, simulated Oli the whole day.
All right. Well, I think I'm going to get on the bike too.
Do it, man. Enjoy yourself.
I will. It's a crisp and clean day. I'm going to enjoy my trainer ride in my dark bedroom.
Ooh, sounds ominous.
Yeah. Just going to go deep inside, man. I'm just going to
do it, man. Turn the lights off, close your eyes, no music, dark bedroom. Go for it.
It's all going to be about how does this blood flow, man? How do I feel? Like sensory deprivation.
Oh, yes. I like that.
Ooh.
I like that. Let me know how that goes.
I will.
And then, next podcast we can talk about your training since you diverted it and went on to mine for the next hour.
Okay.
Well played, sir. Well played.
Thank you.
If you want more information on all the other wonderful things that we try to do and sometimes fall short, you can go to crushingiron.com, and we have information on our training camps, our triathlon camps, swim analysis, coaching and training packages, our club membership, which is really taken off now with its own closed Facebook group with introductions and camaraderie and teamwork and 30-minute conversations with Mike, tailored, customized plans done by me, access to all of our online training plans, and all kinds of fun banter between you and your fellow clubbers.
Yeah, and listen, the club. I thought it was. Listen, I think that club is. I thought it was a good deal, but the more I hear from people, I realize that it's pretty sweet. Pretty sweet offering,
It is. I can tell you that for a fact.
Yeah. I mean, $299 for the entire year. You get access to all the training plans, plus the custom 12-week plan for your A race. I'm interacting through Facebook, and I'm interacting through Training Peaks with people. We're having consultations. It's a great situation if you aren't in the place for a full-time coach yet, you want to kind of test the waters on that, get your head square about where you're going this year, it's really nice. So check that out. Go to crushingiron.com. There's a club tab up there for more information. The $299 deal is going through the end of January.
That's it.
So with that, we will wrap up podcast number 232. Don't get too high or don't get too low.
And we'll see you on Monday.
All right. See you, buddy.
See you, man.